Hi everyone. Just touching base on a couple of things that are going on that are interesting in the weather or with the globe. But first, I just wanted to say thank you. I created my first video for this channel as a weather-based video regarding that sort of a hurricane type weather pattern that went up over the North Pole. It turned out it was interesting to watch, but I'll show you in a minute. The patterns changed and wound up making it a bit of a non-event, or at least a very minor event in the grand scheme of things. But anyway, just wanted to take a second and say thank you very much. I appreciate all of the people who have subscribed, as well as all the comments, and the people who watched the previous video. In this particular video, I'm just going to touch on a couple things, but the most important is that there is something I've noticed that I have not seen mentioned in any other YouTube video that is related to why the North Pole is melting in the way it is. It's kind of an interesting spin, and maybe when you finish seeing what I'm showing, you'll think, I wonder why no one else has seen this, because it just seems pretty obvious to me. But let's talk about, and then finally I'll mention a little bit about Venus. This information is on other web videos and websites, but if you haven't seen it, it's something you can just step outside, look up in the sky right after sunset, and notice for yourself. So I thought I'd mention that as well. All right, so the weather patterns have normalized quite a lot. There is nothing really bizarre going on, particularly not with our hemisphere. And things have gotten right back to where you expect them to be, okay, and this kind of normal pattern and flow of things. Up at the North Pole, you can see there is still some circular activity. It's slowed down quite a bit, and what happened, if I zoom in, is as soon as it got above Greenland here, it started immediately pulling cold air out of Canada. So instead of pulling it up from Africa, it started pulling air more from Canada, which is what it's doing now. And it's just kind of slowly spinning here now and creating no problems at all. So the temperatures during the daytime on Saturday did get slightly above freezing, which is bizarre, but not much. So anyway, that's how that worked out. What I want to spend a little time talking about in this kind of theory of mine has to do with this area right here. And if I zoom in, and this has changed just in the past couple hours, but I noticed it's happening again, and I wanted to bring it to your attention while I've got a chance. But you see this? It's like a little waterfall. Almost looks three-dimensional, doesn't it? But it's actually just freezing cold air coming off of Canada here. That's what the pink is. And then all of a sudden there's a line, and I'll show you that line a little more clearly in a moment. And everything shifts and dips down. If we look at the temperatures, I think I should just be able to, if I click like over here, all right, I'll flip this over to Fahrenheit, make it easier. I'll change this, miles per hour. Okay, so negative 9.6 Fahrenheit. And then if I click right on the blue line, you'll see 0.9. So basically 0 Fahrenheit, 0.9 degrees Fahrenheit. And then if I click just off to the right, we're at 12 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a huge temperature jump across this light blue line. And the wind is not blowing around the line so much. It's actually just flowing right across it from very cold air to very warm air. In fact, if you come down here, you'll see 29.8 degrees. And so forth, okay? So the question is, what is that light blue line? I'm going to turn off the wind currents so we can see it a little better. I mentioned this briefly in my last video, but I wasn't able to show it because the currents were so kind of unusual in this area. Also, this particular thing or event only happens every now and then. It's not constant, but sometimes you can tell it if you've seen it before, but it's not obvious. This is pretty obvious. So a very clear line on one end, and then down here, not quite so clear, but still a giant warmer area. And remember, we're looking at ocean surface temperatures here. Okay, so this is air temperatures right at the surface. All right, let's go over to Google Maps. Look what comes right off Greenland. Okay, straight line all the way to this giant supervolcano on the end. And I'm not making any speculation about the supervolcano being dangerous, or I have no idea. I haven't seen any news about it at all, in fact. But what we know is, as I mentioned in the last video, this is an active volcano chain that they discovered in 2012 when looking for oil. Okay, they thought it was dormant, and it's not. So here's our line. Now, if that is active, wouldn't it explain the line on the map, as well as the fact that any wind blowing this way is going to hit that and have a dramatic temperature increase as it moves across, right? So we were checking, I guess we were checking up here somewhere, but that's significant. And you can surely see how that kind of heat would melt ice. So we get a lot less sea ice in the Arctic because of something like that. And again, I'm just driving toward the fact that CO2 does not work as a catalyst for the kind of global warming that we've been seeing in the news. There must be another explanation. One of the big premise for global warming is the polar bears and, Al Gore talking about the North Pole and the ice melting. Well, if it's a volcano chain at the bottom of the ocean melting the ice from the bottom up, this would explain a lot and have nothing to do with humans interacting or creating CO2 for the environment, okay? But that's not all. It gets a little bit better even. Let's move down, and I'm going to switch over to ocean temperatures. We'll look at currents, and this is surface temperature of the ocean. Let's close that. And they just don't show anything in the Arctic Circle for ocean temperatures. In fact, you can see they leave a lot kind of blank. And this is where the sea ice is the explanation. I think it's a little bit curious that the sea ice apparently ends exactly at the Arctic Circle, but they just don't show that part. Let's not linger on that. Let's focus on down here. So here we have those Russian islands. This down here is Iceland at the bottom of the screen. I want to pull it down so you can see. Okay, look at this green area. Look at that, 47.1 Fahrenheit. Are you kidding me? That far up. Something's happening there. Now look at this dark blue line, okay? Kind of an elbow shape here. If we go to the left side, let me get down here toward the middle, we see 32.9 degrees Fahrenheit right on the blue line, 36 right across, 39. Now I know, and so these currents have actually changed here. They were not going south to north earlier, but we could even check down here. It's the same thing, and that flow. All right, so 32, 36, 39. All right, and this is kind of in a little eddy current over here. But the question is, why is this happening? What is that? And again, if we go back to Google Maps, look at that. That look familiar? Little elbow right here. And that, if I skip back over, sorry for skipping around, I'll zoom in even more. Okay, so look at this little long island here, okay, off the coast. That's where that green dot is, right? That really, really warm 47.8 degree water temperature. Okay, let's go back to Google Maps. What is right off that island? This area right here. So clearly there's a lot of venting, hydrothermic vents or some sort of venting. I'm not going to say volcano. There may not be lava or magma involved, but isn't that interesting that we have an active volcano chain, folks? As far as I can tell, it comes right down to this little island here, and that active volcano chain, and whether it's actually volcanoes or, again, hydrothermic, is just venting from the center of the Earth, hot water. And those vents can be 2,000 degrees plus, shooting up out of the crust of the Earth. They're heating the water, and that water is warming the entire region to an unusual level, okay? And certainly it's melting ice. So I just thought I'd mention that, just another one of those kind of Earth weather anomalies that I couldn't show in the last video. The one other thing I wanted to jump to with maybe in the last minute is Venus, just to kind of mix things up. I've mentioned in the past that I think that some of the things that are happening out in space are affecting not only our planet, but our entire solar system. So here's one you can check. Step outside right after the sun goes down, and you look up just to the left and up from where the sun sets, and you'll see Venus. Here's the interesting thing, though. You might notice it's brighter than you've ever seen it before. At least that's my observation. I've been looking at Venus for years and years, and I've always known where it was, and I just can't get around the fact that it looks very bright. And the reason I pulled up Solar System Scope here is because I want to look at Venus. And you notice it's like 3/4 eclipsed as it comes around in front of it. It's true it's close to Earth, but this happened a couple years ago when we had, if you remember, the news media cover it, and Venus eclipsed the sun. It's about to happen again. But at that time, I didn't remember Venus being nearly as bright as it is now. So here's the question. How can it be brighter than I've ever seen it while it's at a point where it's 3/4 in the shade, on the shady side of the sun? I don't get it, but there's a lot of explanations online. If you're interested, check it out. But I thought I'd mention it just so that you had the information, just something new. And with that, I'll wrap up. I just wanted to touch on these two things, kind of point them out, and then bring a little conclusion to the storm or the high pressure zone that headed up to the North Pole. I really do, again, appreciate the views, the subscribers, and the comments as well. Clearly, there's a lot of people who feel like something's not right. And that's why I'm sharing this information. I'm not only going to focus on weather with this channel, but I really do think that if I can bring some data and share some insight, maybe we can all learn together and come to some sort of conclusion about what's actually happening in our world at this point. Whether it's something that's happening just this year, whether it's something that's going to be going on for years to come, maybe an ice age is on the horizon, we need to collect more data and make better decisions because we have that better data. So that's the journey I'm on, and I appreciate you joining me in this, and I look forward to any comments you've got on this video as well. Have a great day.